Hello? Can you hear me? I know there are quite a few of you here today, but it's important for me to be heard. So listen, even if it's just one of you. Are you still listening? Are any of you still listening? My name and age and address aren't important. This really isn't about me anymore. It's about him. I'm sorry, but I don't know his real name. He told me his name was Monty, but now I'm not so sure. I need you to tell the authorities about him. So please pay attention. In 2019, there were over 420,000 children reported missing to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. 91% were considered runaways from their own families and homes. What would happen if one of these runaways met up with someone that she met online? Let's find out in A Ghost of a Chance by Jake Barton. I moved here about 2 years ago. My parents were physically abusive. When I realized things were never going to get better at home, I decided to leave. The farther away, the better. Why not move so far away from home that they never find me? I chose here. I didn't have any friends here. In fact, I didn't know a soul. But I had never had trouble making friends at home. Several of my friends back home even began as acquaintances that I met online. I'm not crazy. I've always made sure I chatted with my online friends for several months before I ever agreed to meet any of them. If it worked at home, I figured it'd work here too. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure whether or not Monty is this guy's real name, but his screen name was Monty Python something. That's at least one part of the missing puzzle I need you to remember. I'm so mad at myself right now. I wish I could remember Monty's full screen name. But you know how computers are these days. You start typing the first few letters of someone's screen name, and bam, there it is. I had probably chatted with Monty on the internet easily over 100 times. Keep in mind, this was a young adult chat room. The room was filled with mostly the late teens, early 20s crowd. No one really knew anyone's age. I guess it was just sort of assumed you fit the MO. Listen to me. I sound like I'm on one of those CSI shows or something. From the beginning, I had told Monty I was new in town. He suggested meet at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. He said that way if either of us felt uncomfortable, we could just leave. I thought about it, and he was probably just as nervous meeting me as I was him. So why not enjoy some face-to-face company for a change? Besides, who was I to turn down a free meal? He had told me over the phone what he'd be wearing. This is important, so please pay attention. He was wearing a plaid shirt with a dark t-shirt underneath. His pants were some type of khaki. I also remember his shoes. I have no idea what brand they were, but he was definitely wearing running shoes. He was already seated in a booth when I arrived. And I can't lie, I was shocked. Monty was old enough to be my grandfather. I immediately started rummaging through my mind, trying to remember if either of us had asked the other's age. I drew a blank. I guess I just sort of assumed he'd be close to my age, just the group name of the chat room. For a second, I almost backed out. After all, he didn't know what I looked like. Then I looked at him again. He is probably just a lonely older man looking for a little conversation. This is silly. So I walked up and introduced myself. Once we ordered, we began talking. I was amazed at how easily our conversation flowed. But it was obvious he was having a better time than me. And enough was enough, and it was getting late. So I started saying my goodbyes. But then Monty said if I had a few minutes to spare, he would sure appreciate some help moving a heavy item in the storage unit. He even offered me $20 for my time. I thought about it, and I figured I'd help Monty move whatever he needed moving, collect my $20, and then I'll be on my way. After all, I guess I sort of felt like I owed him my help. I mean, he just paid for my dinner. Who knows? Maybe this is why he bought me dinner in the first place. He offered to drive us both there and then drop me off at my car after we're done. So we left the parking lot in his utility van. Of course, the minute we drove out of the lot, I began to wonder if this had been a good idea. I mean, I barely knew the guy, and he had already surprised me with how old he was. Are you still listening? Everything I'm telling you is important. The storage facility was on one of the side streets in an older part of town, just about a mile and a half down the road from the coffee shop. Once we pulled into the storage facility's entrance, he put the van in park, got out, unlocked the sliding gate, got back in the car, and drove us through. Once we were through, Monty put the van in park and got out again. He closed the sliding gate and relocked it. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I mean, it was an older part of town, and it was obvious there are no security cameras anywhere on the property. If you think about it, it makes perfect sense to relock the front gate. Why take chances, right? So he pulled up to his unit at the end of the property. It was then that it hit me just how isolated we were. If I screamed, would anyone hear me? The only available light was from a lamppost at the entrance near the front gate. So Monty fished around under his driver's seat and found a small flashlight. Once he got out his keys, he unlocked his unit and slowly raised the door. You could see he had lots of items in storage, but most of his items, however, were in the back of his unit. He shined his flashlight across a large mountain of tarps, covering a variety of what looked like to be different sized cardboard boxes. Once I pulled off the first tarp, I saw that the side of one of the boxes was stained, as if something had broken inside and its contents had started to leak through. So Monty handed me the flashlight to hold, and I shined it once again on the box. I saw that I was correct. Something had indeed stained the side. At first, I thought it was dry paint. But then I realized it was blood. I slowly stepped towards the large box and lifted the lid. A chill went down my spine. I slowly raised the flashlight to check out the contents inside. I screamed when I saw the remains of a teenage boy. It was then that I heard Monty charging towards me. I shined the flashlight in his direction, and the last thing I see is a shovel being raised in the air. I won't go into any more details here. They're not necessary anyway. I'll just say, what he did to me was worse than what it looked like he had done to that dead boy inside that cardboard box. That's it. That's all I can tell you. I just hope it's enough information for the authorities to find him. I remember one time my high school psychology teacher told us that there are people who are born with a sixth sense. I just pray that one of you might have an even stronger gift, like a medium who can actually hear us on the other side. I also know that's one of you most likely don't want to make a scene right now. I understand, but please help me. Since my parents think I'm a runaway, I doubt anyone will ever be looking for me. That's why I so desperately need one of you to help me, so they can help the authorities find my body and the others. Yes, there are others now. Help the authorities find us and let us have a proper burial. Are any of you still but I need someone to hear me. Help me. Help the authorities find him. Make sure he doesn't do this again.